Need your daily fix on mixed martial arts?
We're going to kind of recap Bellator 155.
From UFC 198.
Who's who?
Kind of a controversial decision.
And who's not?
I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me.
Well, don't you fret, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your daily dose of MMA podcasts. Everything from the UFC, Bellator Fighting Championships, Extreme Cage Fighting, Invicta Fighting Championships, and so much more. Join us as we talk about some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts. We've got you covered here on Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel Del Leon, and hopefully you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, wherever you are, whether you be in the Philippines, in Taiwan, somewhere in Africa, or you live somewhere in America, whether it be Florida, New York, the great city of Los Angeles, which I live in right now, and oh my goodness, housing rates here are insane, but I hope you're doing well for yourself. Wash your hands, be safe. Things are beginning to reopen up right now, and I don't know, I'm reading about this, that apparently Florida is kind of back and running again. I don't know, it's weird. I'm reading it up, and like Florida's all back and running. I live next to the Irvine area in Southern California, and so I was going through malls, going through restaurants, and everything seems perfectly well normal. Like, to be honest with you, everything right now, at least in my perspective, in the Southern California area, is perfectly fine and normal, with the exception being people wearing masks. But people are eating inside restaurants now. People are heading out in malls. Malls are perfectly fine and open. So, at this point right now, things are beginning to... things are pretty much reopening. So I'm at the beginning process of reopening. We are reopening. And I'm happy. It feels great. It feels great that everything seems like, sort of, I think, like 75% back to normal again. With the exception being if you ever go out to news or you open up, open your television screen or you go on YouTube, there's always a pop-up saying COVID-19 cases going up. And well, some of my friends are giving me, slack for it. At least in my perspective right now, things are getting better. Here in Southern California, things are beginning to normalize. It's back to school season. So people are heading back to school. So far, for the most part, it's mostly online, which is understandable considering most professors are above the age of 50. While there are some young professors out there, you don't want to risk the much older people or the older faculty members in a college setting. So, yeah, things are getting normal here, though. And, mixed martial arts, it really is a trailblazer. I'll say that UFC is a trailblazing organization in that they're the first ones to put their foot out there as it pertains to putting live sports that's not replays, live sports out there on my television screen and also my laptop. And is coming, and I'm talking about this as there's a huge upset of the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. Huge shocker there. Huge shout out to Nikola Jokic out there, who, in my opinion, has to be the most underrated player in all of the National Basketball Association. But I'm not here talking about basketball. I'm here talking about an event coming up this Saturday, and that is Covington versus Tyron Woodley being the main event. UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Woodley, happening Saturday, September 19, 5 p.m. Pacific Time at the UFC Apex Facility Building. This will not be a PvP fight. This will instead be the main event fight for an ESPN Plus card, which I find so puzzling. I really do, because... Wait, Tyron Woodley, when did he exactly lose the belt? Was he the champion in the beginning of 2019? Or did he lose the belt end of 2018? Maybe it is right now. Alright, so he lost the belt... Okay, so he lost the belt March 2nd of 2019, and his last great fight was the one before that, to which he fought Darren Till back in September 8, 2018. And there's a lot of speculation going on. I'm surprised that Tyron Woodley ended up fighting Damian Maia. I really did believe that Woodley versus Colby Covington was the right pick instead of Darren Till. But you know what? Hindsight 2020, we can't predict everything. And so, Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. This fight easily without a doubt, could have been a main event fight in a UFC pay-per-view event just a year and a half ago. Now, I say about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. And now we're getting this fight coming up. So this fight's coming up on a UFC ESPN event. And it's so weird looking into this fight right now because I can firmly say right now that both fighters' stock have dropped tremendously. And I'm saying this even though Colby Covington, he lost to Kamaru Usman in a very close fight that many people liked. It's hard to, because I think that was the highest stock Colby Covington had. Also, didn't have the COVID-19 also happened, and Colby Covington, he's like you're seeing less Colby Covington. There's a lot less trolling going on right now with Colby Covington. He's tried it with like him and his conflict with American Top Team and all that stuff. But for the most part, Colby Covington's stock has dropped. And for the hardcore fan base, it's understandable in that from the hardcore fan base perspective, we see Covington versus Kamaru Usman, and this is also part of my perspective, not everyone who watches MMA. But I really didn't buy Colby Covington going to the fight against Kamaru Usman. I just really didn't, though. It was a battle. It was a bout between two wrestlers who tried to make this fight be a boxing fight. And I'll tell you right now, Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman was a much more exciting, much more enjoyable fight than it was originally expected to be. Like, when I saw Covington versus Kamaru Usman, I thought this fight was going to be boring. I thought it was going to be a very boring fight in that we have two grapplers who have very little to no punching power. Let's just be perfectly honest. Within the confines of the UFC, neither of them are going to knock each other out. Yeah, of course, Covington, his jaw is broken, but that's more of a basis of like accumulative strikes coming into his jaw, more so than like, oh man, dude, this guy with like Kamaru Usman here with his like right hand, wow. It wasn't like that. It was two wrestlers boxing one another, throwing out a high number of jabs. And I believe that we didn't see the best version of both of those fighters in that fight. I don't think so. And even at Colby Covington, even though if you look at like the fight stats, especially with his fight, okay, so it's hard to look at Colby Covington, and for me, maybe because I'm a stickler, and I always place an asterisk for both Covington and Woodley in their fights. It's either I'm not impressed or there's an asterisk to it. Colby Covington, when he defeated RDA, we're not seeing the best version of RDA. He's gone. Colby Covington, he defeated Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler really is in a down, like, straight. It's like a roller coaster ride. You're plummeting downhill right now for Robbie Lawler. And here's the thing. Robbie Lawler, even though I think he's within the top 10, there's no way Robbie Lawler can ever decisively beat or have a competitive matchup with anybody within the top 10 of the welterweight division. He just recently lost to Neil Magny. And so, Robbie Lawler, with the way how he fights, with the way how he fought against Colby Covington, with the way how he fought against Colby Covington, with the way how he fought against Neil Magny, with the way he fought against Don Cerrone, the one fight that it really looked like we were seeing, oh man, Robbie Lawler, the one who's just going to come in and destroy you, was against Ben Askren, and he lost that fight. Controversially, yes, but he still lost the fight. Robbie Lawler has not had a good string of fights in years. He just hasn't. He really just hasn't. And so, when I look at Covington's record and his place right now in the rankings, and do I really believe Colby Covington is good enough to defeat Usman or to defeat Gilbert Burns? No. I don't think so at all. And then, we go to, and I know this sounds like I'm just slandering both fighters right now, and the truth is, the reason why I'm slandering both of these fighters is because every other fight in this card is better than Woodley versus Covington. I believe that. Yes, are they higher ranked? Yes. Have they had some good strong accolades and have had a good run of fights in the past couple of years? Yes. But I always judge these fighters based on their recent performances, and I believe Covington versus Woodley is not going to be an enjoyable main event unless, I can be completely wrong here, and this could be a fight that you're candid. It can definitely be. For all I know, Woodley versus Covington could potentially be the best fight of the year. But that's only with hindsight. That's only if I get hindsight. But as of right now, based on my prediction, based on how I analyze both of these fighters in their recent fights and where they currently are right now at their careers, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. Tyron Woodley, I'm going to give praise to Tyron Woodley. He had a good showing against Gilbert Burns. He really did. And I have no clue why people picked Tyron Woodley to defeat Gilbert Burns, because going to that fight, I knew Gilbert Burns would defeat Woodley. I knew that. I always say, the best version of Tyron Woodley can defeat everybody and anybody in the welterweight division. But at this point, we are not seeing the best version of Tyron Woodley. We are not. The dude has other priorities right now in mind. Like, Tyron Woodley is the type of guy who's got huge aspirations, and he recognizes that, him competing for the UFC, it gives him a platform, but he's not putting all his chips in his platform. He's got other stuff going on in his head. He wants to do acting. He wants to do music. He wants to be a personality out there. The sad truth, though, is that there's a lot of people, including me, who don't like Tyron Woodley's personality outside the octagon. The guy's a phenom. The dude's a beast. Tyron Woodley 2 years ago here's the thing, I believe. Tyron Woodley 2 years ago can defeat George St. Pierre. I believe that. I think the best version of Tyron Woodley can defeat the best version of George St. Pierre and the Matt Hughes of the world. He is that. He's that great. He really is. Tyron Woodley now, year 2020, I don't buy it. And so, here is my prediction for the fight. I don't think I'm going to enjoy the fight. Hopefully I'm wrong. But with the way how these fighters, their style-wise clash, Tyron Woodley has a very obvious tell when he's going to go for a right hook or a right leaning jab or right Superman punch. So, Covington, he's a smart fighter. He's a very smart fighter, and he understands his fight IQ. We might see Covington wrestle Woodley, because Woodley, despite his accolades as a great amateur wrestler, that dude really doesn't wrestle. Like, when he wants to, he is like an A+, 10 out of 10, great wrestler. But when somebody's on him, the dude just doesn't really do much from the defensive end. So we might see Covington go in and grapple with Woodley. Or we might see Covington go throw in a huge flurry of offense onto Woodley, similar to what Gilbert Burns did on Woodley. And Gilbert Burns just kept pressuring Woodley over and over again. And I believe that Covington is a much more faster striker and he's got better fight IQ than Gilbert Burns. So he's just going to go throw in a huge assortment of jabs. And knowing Tyron Woodley, and that he's the type of fighter who's like, you know what, I'm willing to go and block the entire day and make sure that I don't get any long-term injuries, as opposed to taking a risk out there and getting the win. Like that, I believe that's Tyron Woodley in a nutshell, and that he isn't the type of fighter who will go take a risk for a win right now. I think at this point in his career, he feels like that he's paid his dues. Now, all he can do right now is just show up to work and get paid. That's how I view Tyron Woodley. So, ring the ring, the bell rings, Colby Covington comes in, he pushes forward the action. He pressures on Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, he's going to block, he's going to walk backwards. Most of this fight, the large majority of this fight, is Colby Covington stalking Tyron Woodley. And Woodley, if he is able to connect with his really good counterpunch onto Colby Covington, or he can go and reverse the state of momentum, and he's the one pushing the action on Colby Covington, which is very unlikely to happen, Covington is going to win this fight via 5 rounds of action. I don't think this fight's going to end via knockout. I don't think this fight's going to end via TKO or submission. I think this fight's going to end after 5 rounds of action, to which Colby Covington is laying down a huge volume of jabs and strikes onto Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley will be too slow, and Covington will be too fast that he'll be able to react to Tyron Woodley's counter punches. So Covington has also like very underrated kicks also, and it can go. And Woodley has never had an answer for those types of fighters. He fought good against Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, but once again that was over 2 years ago. I don't have faith in Woodley to be able to work out enough to go and defeat Covington at this current point in their respective careers. So I predict right now, first round, second round, feel out period, third, honestly, first and second round will be the most action-packed moments of the entire fight. And then when it gets to third and fourth, fifth round, that'll be Covington throwing a high volume strikes. So Woodley may win either round 1 or round 2. But coming in 3, 4, 5, it has to go to Covington. Which is so strange, considering the fact that Tyron Woodley has had more experience fighting through 5 rounds or fighting through long fights. But right now, I put my money down on Colby Covington. And then we might see Colby Covington versus Gilbert Burns. That would be a fun matchup. I think it would be a lot more exciting than Usman versus Colby Covington. So yeah, that could happen. But that's if Gilbert Burns is able to defeat Kamaru Usman and become the new welterweight champion. And so once again, you're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Coming back right after the short break here with some more MMA news.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. Once again, you're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Arnel De Leon. You are doing well for yourself right now. Whether you be, getting off work or you're doing your homework right now, hopefully the sound of my voice can help you chill. As this upcoming Saturday, we have UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley. I've been a Debbie Downer for these two fighting because I definitely do not want to see these guys go at it for a 5-round fight, to be honest with you. But let's look at the card here. What else is going on in this card? We've got the co-main event, Donald Cerrone versus Niko Price. A fight that I believe should be the main event. I think Niko Price versus Donald Cerrone will be a bloodbath. Two warriors who refuse to get knocked down. Two scrappy artists. Oh man, dude, this is going to be a fun fight. I say now, Niko Price versus Donald Cerrone, unless something out of the blue happens, like some eye poke disqualification or something like that, I believe Niko Price versus Donald Cerrone can be a fight of the year contender. I'm going to say right now, that fight, along with Khamzat Chimaev against Gerald Meerschaert, those two fights will, in my opinion, will be the two best fights of the entire night. I say Cerrone versus Niko Price will be the best fight of the night. And I'm going to put my money down on Niko Price winning. Yep, you heard me. Hallelujah. I think Niko Price will defeat Donald Cerrone. Which is weird because I can imagine right now in my head how Donald Cerrone can go defeat Niko Price. And they can go, I think Cerrone has a little bit of a slight edge advantage in terms of the reach and his boxing, and he's really good at maximizing his range. But then again, while Donald Cerrone is really good at maximizing his range and reach when it comes to boxing, he has a tendency of just taking whatever is being given to him, just like Niko, except Niko is more likely to pressure the fight. So with Niko Price pressuring on to Donald Cerrone while being pelted with shots by Cerrone, Niko Price is going to throw a high volume of really good dirty boxing. And to the eyes of the judges, it can make it look like Niko Price is doing more work than Cerrone. And it would have to be a fight that have to go and look at the fight statistics. I have to look really deep and forth into the fight statistics to see each round. But I really wish Cerrone versus Niko Price would be the main event of this gosh darn card. 5 rounds of action. Oh man, that's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good. Then we have Khamzat Chimaev against Gerald Meerschaert. Here's the interesting part. So, Dana White and the UFC brass has booked Khamzat for another fight in another division. I think either welterweight or light. I think it's welterweight. So, Khamzat Chimaev is being booked for another fight for another weight division. I think 2 weeks after this fight. So good job for Khamzat Chimaev there. There's a lot of stock right now being given to Khamzat Chimaev. A lot of stock. Even like he's constantly popping up in my YouTube recommendations for some reason. And so there's a lot of stock going in for him. But Gerald Machart, man. Dude, this will easily without be. This is easily the toughest matchup for Khamzat Chimaev he's had in his UFC career. Without a doubt about it. So I expect that fight along with Niko Price and Cerrone to be the two best standout fights of the entire night. And then we have Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann in the light heavyweight division. Johnny Walker, not the most prettiest fighter to watch. Johnny Walker fights, they're not the most enjoyable to watch. I don't know. Maybe the inner MMA snob in me is like, okay, I know Johnny Walker. There's no way this guy can compete against anyone who is within 1 through 6 or 1 through 8 in the light heavy division. Johnny Walker, like the best version of Johnny Walker is him fighting the 10th ranked best fighter in the light heavy division. That's Johnny Walker. But you love seeing the dude fight. And especially with another scrappy fighter like Ryan Spann. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight ends potentially in the second round. I really believe that. I think this fight could... I don't see this fight going past second 2 rounds. I really don't. This could be really... I think Ryan Spann could go win like TKO Night of the Year. I don't think... but TKO of the night. I don't think Johnny Walker... I'm not throwing much stock on Johnny Walker because his performances recently have not been all that well. The dude has a tendency of gassing out just 2 minutes after the second round. But once he gets to that point, man, I think Ryan Spann, he should... I don't get it. What else is to do for Johnny Walker? I don't get it. Okay, so... what's the best thing for him to do? Because if he can't handle himself... fighting against light heavyweights, and he's supposed to be this like, heavy hit, like knockout artist guy, how do I expect Johnny Walker to do well for himself in the heavyweight division? I just don't really see it. I just don't. I'm okay. Actually, on the fight odds, the betting odds have come out already. But let me look at Johnny Walker's. Here's the weird part. Johnny Walker, he's ranked. He's only 20 years old, but he's already like a proper veteran. Okay, so he lost to Corey Anderson and Nikita Krylov, two really impressively, really good fighters here. He's fighting against easier competition because Ryan Spann is definitely lower than Nikita Krylov and Corey Anderson. And it makes sense for Walker to agree to this fight. Okay, let's look at Ryan Spann's. Okay, so Walker's performance against Nikita Krylov was not all that well. Oh, definitely. So Nikita Krylov is coming off a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's coming off an 8-fight win streak right now. And he just recently won a very close, tough fight against Sam Alvey. I just don't think, for as strong as Johnny Walker is, I don't think he's better than Ryan Spann. I don't know what's for Walker. I don't know. Maybe he should compete at heavyweights. Maybe he should. I don't know what else to add about this because it's such an obvious thing that Ryan Spann is going to defeat Johnny Walker. I'm going to say I might look like an idiot in just a couple days from now. Whatever. So, women's strawweight bout here. We have Mackenzie Dern against Randa Marcos. Mackenzie Dern, if you haven't been following up with her, actually, I really believe she is the future of the women's strawweight division right now. She has to go pull off 2 more victories, and I think then she's going to be within the top 10, or in the top 10 of the women's strawweight rankings. And if she does that, she'll be competing against, likes of, Claudia Cadella and Yan Xianyan and Carla Esparza. And I'll be really excited for that. I'll love to see Mackenzie Dern be able to compete with anybody in the top 5 right now. There's a lot of stock going in for Dern into this fight, but don't doubt Randa Marcos. Don't doubt her. And then we have Kevin Holland against Darren Stewart, which might be a dark horse fight of the night here. I guess for Holland versus Darren Stewart. I'm going to place my money right now on Holland, and I can see this fight either ending I don't see any of these fights ending in the first round. I think all these fights here are going to be total scrap fights, and that they're going to be either very close decisions or it's going to be these like long cardio-based fights here. So, final here, I say Colby Covington will defeat Tyron Woodley by decision, by unanimous decision. I think Niko Price will defeat Don Cerrone by split decision. I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to defeat Joel Michartz late first round. I think Ryan Spann is going to defeat Johnny Walker after the 2-minute mark of the second round. I think Mackenzie Dern is going to defeat Randon Marcos via unanimous decision. And for Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart, I think Holland can go defeat Darren Stewart early in the second round or late first round. Those are my predictions. But let's look at the betting odds here. I'm looking right now through DraftKings here. But alright, so I'm just going on by DraftKings Sports right now on what the predictions are. So, that's interesting. Wow. So, according to DraftKings, Johnny Walker is the favorite to defeat Ryan Spann. Really? Huh. Wait a minute, let me check this out again. Okay, seriously? Let me look at the betting odds predictions here. Look at the predictions. Alright, this should be it. Head to head, Freeland Free, come to Chimaev this weekend here. Okay. So, somebody is putting the best win for Walker. Walker has lost 2 straight bouts, while Spann has won 4 straight inside the octagon. Where is Walker at mentally? How do these two match up? There is 0 chance of this fight being boring. Once you get past the 2-minute mark of the second round, it could. Since fans, and to be fair, actual results have been really tough on Johnny Walker lately. Let's focus on the positive for a moment. The man is generally violent on offense. Yeah, he's got great knockout power. There's no doubt about that. Ryan Spann's an interesting prospect despite his wealth of experience and great physical tools. Spann doesn't seem to be making full of his potential. Of course, he's doing something right. Walker's weakness has been revealed, but Spann is the man to capitalize upon them. I don't think so. I think he is. He doesn't have the conditioning or wrestling to really grind down Walker like Nikita Krylov, which means he has to kickbox with the Brazilian, given Walker's very considerable knockout power and general average defense. It seems like a bad matchup. Johnny Walker wins via knockout. I don't think so. I think Ryan Spann can turn this to a kickboxing match, and it's been shown that Johnny Walker's defense isn't all that well. Like, you can't reward Ryan Spann. You can't downplay Ryan Spann for being the weaker fighter because his cardio is off when Johnny Walker himself has bad cardio. So there is a prediction for Walker winning the fight. Mackenzie Dern. People here are going to pick Randon Marcos winning. Wow. So people predict Randon Marcos winning. Kevin Holland. People agree that Holland's going to win that fight. I'm also checking up here. Comes up to Chimaev. Chimaev will win the fight via decision. That makes sense right now. And the general consensus right now is that people are going to be predicting Colby Covington defeating Tyron Woodley. Definitely by decision there. Definitely will be. But I'm trying to find like the official betting odds for here right now. Yeah, let me find. So UFC Fight Night betting odds. Let me figure this out right now. Right. So, Covington is a huge favorite coming to the fight. Niko Price. People are picking Niko Price over Don Cerrone, which is I agree with actually. I think it's time for Niko Price to win. Johnny Walker's the favorite, which is surprising, and some MMA scouts predict really Randon Marcos and Mackenzie Dern are that close in the betting odds. Wow. And people are obviously choosing Kevin Holland to win her fights. So yeah. So right now, I am surprised people are really down on Ryan Spann for some reason. And here's the thing. Somehow both Mackenzie Dern and Johnny Walker have the same level of confidence, have very similar, which is minus 135, minus 170, similar odds going into their fights as it pertains to the favorites here. Okay, you know what? Maybe there's something that I don't see. That's what I'm saying. Maybe there's something in the Spann Walker fights that's like throwing me out here. I'm looking at the predictions right now, and most of the predictions I look right now for the reason as to why I still call Covington such a favorite to Johnny Walker is everyone's saying the same thing, and that like, yeah, Woodley can be great. Will he be a great fighter though? I don't know. It's like I agree with Dana White's assessment in that Tyron Woodley has all the potential in the world. He's got all the physical tools to be one of, if not the greatest fighters of all time. And there was a period in time where one would argue, oh my goodness, who could defeat Tyron Woodley? It's true. There was a period in time where people were saying, hey, is Tyron Woodley the best welterweight of all time? Even though he's only like a couple title fights in, we're saying he was the best welterweight of all time because it didn't make any sense reasonably as to how you could defeat Woodley. And although that's not me taking away from Kamaru Usman's performance against Woodley, his very dominant performance of Tyron Woodley, one-sided beatdown, one-sided wrestling match there. But really, you really are questioning Woodley. And Colby Covington, even though he's been slowing down lately, the dude's trying. He's really, really trying. And there's a recent photo. Okay, so if you haven't checked it up yet, go on Colby Covington's Instagram, and you'll see him awkwardly stand right next to. It's weird to look at Colby Covington without him wearing sunglasses, but him wearing a suit and a MAGA hat for some reason. And so he's with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is like cutting this pro wrestling style promo for Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley, and Colby Covington is just awkwardly like sweating like under his hat, and he's looking off to the side, very like with a whole lot of stress and anxiety in him. It's a very weird image to look at, but look it up on Colby Covington's Instagram. And so coming up right after a short break here, I'll be covering some more MMA news right here at the GSMC MMA Podcast. Coming soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back, and you are listening to the News Brief. What is going on in the world of mixed martial arts? Well, first off, this is coming in from MMAJunkie.usatoday.com that Dana White hints Dustin Poirier negotiated himself out of Tony Ferguson. Dustin Poirier responds. So, it was expected UFC President Dana White believes Dustin Poirier has an unknown motive for not fighting Tony Ferguson at UFC 254. This is being written in by Mike Bone. So this matchup between former interim UFC lightweight champions Dustin Poirier, who's 26-6, and his MMA career 18-5 in the UFC, meanwhile Tony Ferguson, who is 25-4 and 15-2 in the UFC, was expected to take place on October 24, but it fell apart due to financial terms. So Ferguson has since pushed for the UFC to make things right, with Poirier putting out on social media posts encouraging White to pay his potential foe and give the fans a highly desired matchup. White said Poirier just wouldn't get on board, though, and insinuated he asked for an unrealistic amount of money to step in the octagon. Listen, I like Dustin, White told reporters, including MMA Junkie, at the DWCS 33 post-fight, which is Dana White's Contender Series, 33 post-fight news press conference on Tuesday. I'm not going to sit up here and say anything negative about Dustin. He's a great kid. I don't know if it was he didn't want to fight in Abu Dhabi or what his deal was. He didn't want to fight. Listen, there's a lot of different ways to turn down a fight. Negotiating yourself out of one is one of the ways you can do it. So for whatever reason, he didn't want to take the fight. Only he knows that. Poirier offered a response to White when contacted by MMA Junkie and made it clear he remains keen on fighting Ferguson. I do want that fight, Poirier wrote via text message. Simple and plain. I want to fight Tony. I like the matchup. White, for his part, seemed to set on moving past the potential booking. He said another matchup for Ferguson is on table and he expects El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson, to take it. I told you we've got to fight. I don't see Tony not accepting the fight. So last month, it's okay. So in the last episode, I was talking about fighter economics with Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier, the dude was making really good money for himself. I think he was making. All right. So in his last fight, he made $150,000 just to show. Then he made another extra $150,000 for his win bonus. But before that, his past two fights before his last fight, he was getting himself $200,000 of show up bonuses and $250,000 show up bonuses. So, in my opinion, how I think this all laid out was that Dustin Poirier. Alright, let's see how this is. So he made $150,000 for his show-in bonus during a UFC Fight Night Event. He made $250,000 for a UFC pay-per-view event. The fight between him and Tony Ferguson is going to be a pay-per-view. So, and also it's going to be in Abu Dhabi. And I think at this point in his career, he should be making a bare minimum of $250,000 for showing up. So I thought to myself that at this point in Dustin Poirier's career, he wanted to go and maximize his profits as much as he can, and I think he was negotiating, instead of $250,000 show up bonus, he was instead asking for $350,000 or $400,000. If he asked for a $500,000 show up bonus, I think that's too much. Within the confines of mixed martial arts and the UFC, I think asking for anything at or above $500,000 just to show up is ridiculous. And he was already making $250,000 before, so I think it was definitely negotiable if, at the very most, he could negotiate himself up to $350,000 just to show up. At the very most. Very likely he can negotiate his way upwards would have to be $300,000. I don't think there's no way Dustin Poirier can make an argument or negotiate his way past $100,000 bonus extra for showing up. And it's sad. It really is, because I think if Poirier were to accept an extra $50,000 bonus and go on to defeat Tony Ferguson, he'd be walking away with upwards of minimum $600,000, which would have to be the largest amount of money he's ever made in his entire mixed martial arts career. I think the most he's ever made in his entire career is $430,000 off one fight. That was the largest he ever made in his career. And I think everything was going right for him to negotiate to bump up $50,000 bonus for showing up and $50,000 bonus for winning. And it's very likely he could have come away with a performance of the night bonus then, so that'd be another $50,000, and he'd be only given 4 months of prep time, which would give him $40,000 in bonuses. So he could have made an extra $100,000 there. So he could have made a potential earning of $700,000, which is about $270,000 more than the highest earning he's ever made in his MMA career. That's a lot of money that he potentially could have lost on the table there. And maybe, here's the thing, maybe he played too much hardball. That's what I think. I think he played too much hardball, and because of that, he wasn't able to go get his way. I believe that's what happened, and if that's what actually happened, I feel sad. I do. But, so this is coming in by multiple reports here. We got one from ESPN, Bloody Elbow, and BJPen.com. I'm just going to go straight towards ESPN here. But Dustin Poirier wants to fight. So he says he still wants to fight. I still think he is trying to negotiate. He needs to bring it down a peg. He does, in terms of a negotiation. But it is expected that Michael Chandler could be the next opponent for Tony Ferguson, which would be great. So this is being written by Ariel Helwani. As we all know, there's a big difference between negotiating a contract and not wanting to fight. The entire MMA community, including the UFC brass, knows Dustin Poirier wants to fight Tony Ferguson. To suggest otherwise, simply unfair for Poirier. A veteran who has developed a reputation as the kind of fighter who is down to fight anyone, anytime. Poirier has assured me on multiple occasions that he wants to fight. Heck, he left his family in Lafayette, Louisiana to start a training camp for a fight that he wasn't even booked yet. Does that sound like a guy who doesn't want to compete? The Diamond, Dustin Poirier, puts on his Twitter, "I want the fights," while showing a link by MMA Junkie, with Dana White saying there's a lot of different ways to turn on a fight. Negotiating yourself into a corner is one way to do it. And so Ferguson, as he tweeted earlier this week, he also wants to fight. He even urged the UFC to go pay the guy. We haven't seen this kind of unity with survivors like Nathan Diaz, Conor McGregor. We got a lot of people making arguments here of what's going on. But one name that has been discussed is free agent Michael Chandler, the former Bellator lightweight champion who fought out of his contract in early August. The UFC is in advanced talks right now with Chandler per sources, and is currently the front runner to sign him, though a deal isn't finalized yet. I think that would be awesome. Put it out there, Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Huge super fight for hardcore MMA fans. That's what I believe. It's unclear if Ferguson is interested in that fight. White said Tuesday night that Ferguson hasn't agreed to a new fight yet. According to sources, Ferguson's first choice is Poirier, but we all know how these things go. What if the UFC sweetens the pot for Ferguson to entice him to fight Chandler next month? The Chandler option is the only other fight that makes sense for Ferguson, in my opinion. I don't think it makes much sense for him to fight somebody like Dan Hooker or Paul Felder, as great as those fights would be, but considering Chandler is a former champion, and considering there is always a little extra excitement anytime another promotion's former champion such as the UFC, I think the fans will ultimately get behind the fights, which is both a positive and a negative for the sport. What's fun about MMA is the last minute nature of it all. Masvidal stepping in at short notice to fight against Kamaru Usman was exciting, and also Chandler vs. Ferguson, a lot of fans would be happy. I'd be happy for that fight. I really am. But Poirier deserves better. Now we do know what kind of money is he asking for. No, he wouldn't tell me, and the UFC doesn't comment on these things. We do know his disclosed purse was $150,000. $150,000 to show, $150,000 bonus in his fight against Dan Hooker this past June. But we also know that he made $250,000 on the fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, which means, at the bare minimum, the barest bare minimum that Dustin Poirier can make, if he were to go and fight against Ferguson and defeat Ferguson and get performance of the night and get, the extra $50,000 coming of incentive pay, since he only had 4 weeks prep time to go fight against Tony Ferguson in just 1 month, it makes all the sense that Dustin Poirier could have potentially made close to $600,000. $600,000 if he agreed to fighting Ferguson and have that be a similar contract to his contract with Khabib. A lot of money, man. A lot of money is out there on the table for Dustin Poirier. People are saying pay the guy, pay the man. It's coming from Okamoto saying that it does go down to payments. Will we see Michael Chandler versus Ferguson? I don't know. Can we expect Michael Chandler being tossed in there and fight against one of the top guys in the UFC? Probably. That probably is a real possibility. So it is also coming in by MMAJoke.com. So there's a... So it's not Colby Covington's Instagram, but it's Twitter, where it's Donald Trump cutting a pro wrestling promo next to a very awkward, very ill-fitting looking Colby Covington, who looks stressed, who looks tired, who has a lot of anxiety, wearing his ugly brown beige looking suit with his MAGA hat. Oh man, this looks bad. Alright, so there's a picture being tossed out there that has Justin Gaethje, Donald Trump, Little Henry Cejudo, sorry if I can't say his name, Ali Abladas, Khabib's manager, and Dana White. And then next to Trump, you see Colby Covington. Everyone's wearing similar colors. That makes sense. Everyone's wearing this navy blue suits, and then Colby Covington, like a total geek, is wearing these beige brown this beige brown suit, wearing pants that are just one size bigger than him. No, because everyone's like wearing like nice wearing pants, but then if you look at Donald Trump's pants, it's super baggy, and then you look at Colby Covington's pants, and it obviously doesn't like fit him naturally. Oh man, it's a very ill-fitting suit. And then you see like Dana White hovering behind Henry Cejudo, and there's a video out there where where Donald Trump is selling the UFC event coming up this Saturday, this UFC on ESPN Plus event on Saturday. He's like, letting you know now, I support Dana White. He's a good man. He runs a good organization. Speaking of a good organization, don't forget to watch UFC on ESPN Plus this Saturday. Woodley versus Colby Covington. Colby Covington, he's a great champ. Colby Covington isn't a champ, but whatever. Colby Covington is a great champ. He's going in there. Let's give it up for Henry Cejudo. He's a great double champion. And they see Henry Cejudo there with no belts, looking all awkward and stuff. We got Ali being all good there. Justin Gaethje, man, he's going to defeat Khabib. Yeah! It has to be one of the most awkward things I have ever seen. And it is encapsulated with this awkward looking picture. Go on Google, type up Donald Trump UFC, and you're gonna see that first image that pops up, and you're gonna see how goofy it looks, how weird it is. We got Trump giving like the fawns like one thumbs up. Colby Covington he looks like my friend who went to my brother's wedding. So he went to my brother's wedding, and like I'm Filipino wedding. We have all these people, all Filipino, we're eating Filipino food. We're all speaking Tagalog, or we were speaking sort of Tagalog. And I got to my friends. I brought my Asian friends, my Vietnamese friends to come there. And then I brought my one white friend there. And the way that Colby Covington looks like in this picture is like my one white friend, in that he stands out like a sore thumb. That his presence there makes the other people who are around him super uncomfortable. Because my friend wore like super baggy pants, this ugly dress shirt with no blazer, untucked with a tie that's not even tightened up, so it's all very loose, while all of us are all dressed like pretty nice, or we're all dressed like, well, I didn't dress pretty good. I dressed pretty good. Everyone else dressed pretty good, and then here he comes with his baggy pants, baggy shirts. Look at him with his like bad hair. And he's like taking a picture with everybody. But honestly, Colby Covington looks as photoshopped as my friend. If I were to show everyone what my friend looked in the wedding picture, because it looked like my friend was photoshopped in the picture, Colby Covington looks like he got photoshopped in his picture. And I loved how goofy this is, and how goofy this entire turnout ended up becoming. Weird, just weird. And so once again, you're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Coming back, clearing up with the news brief for today. See you soon.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And we are back. So, coming in from BJPen.com, what's going on with the news brief today? Well, Randy Costa is ecstatic to be fighting Journey Newson. I'm expecting this fight to be a fan-friendly fight. This is being written in by Cole Shelton. Randy Costa couldn't be more excited when he found out he was fighting Journey Newson. Costa was set to fight in March, but the event was cancelled due to COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, the loyal Massachusetts native packed up and headed to Florida to train at American Top Team due to restrictions in Massachusetts. I'm still at ATT, American Top Team. Initially, my major concern was going out there with a target on my back, as I have like no experience and I'm new, Costa said on Just Scrap Radio on BJPen.com. That isn't what happened, as everyone welcomed me with open arms. I get a lot of individual attention. My main training partners have been Marlon Moraes and Tony Gravely. While in Florida, Randy Costa got a fight offer to take on Jordy Newson at UFC Vegas 11, which he accepted immediately. I love the matchup. I want to fight exciting guys like I don't want to fight guys who are looking to squeak out decisions, and Jordy is one of those guys, he explained. Jordy's tough. He punches hard, he's elusive, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling. It is an exciting fight. I couldn't love the matchup anymore. When the two shared the octagon together, many expect it to be a striking battle. That is obviously the hope for Randy Costa, but he knows he was ready to. He has to be ready in case Newson takes him down. Our resume speaks for themselves. Do I think he will shoot a double leg on me or in the middle of the cage? Probably not. Do I think he will try to take me down and get me in the clinch? Maybe. I think Jordy realizes he can pack a punch. I'm sure Jordy knows I will look to unleash my power. I'm expecting this to be a fan-friendly fight. I'll love to have some extra cash. That wouldn't suck. Although this is Randy Costa's first fight in the year of 2020, he is looking to make a quick turnaround regardless of the outcome, barring his health. Costa knows he needs to get more time in the cage, but he did think of the time off really did help him. 1000%. Regardless of how this fight goes, as long as I won't suffer any injuries, I like to get a relatively fast turnaround, Costa concluded. With a win, end of October or November if I lose, hopefully that doesn't happen like the end of December. I want to fight by the end of the year. So, you know what? He's optimistic and positive, which is really nice. It's really nice that we're seeing optimism and some positivity happening in the world of mixed martial arts as everything seems like down in the year of 2020. But Khabib, well, this is coming in from PolitiElbow.com. Khabib says comparisons to Muhammad Ali are inappropriate. I cannot be compared. He threw away the gold medal. He changed his attitude towards his race very much, so we cannot compare. So he was asked about the comparisons of Ali and Khabib. And Khabib pretty much immediately said that the reason why we're being compared to was because they're both Muslim and they're both champion. But beyond that, though, there's little to no comparison between the two of them. He goes on to say, I think comparing Ali and me is probably wrong, Khabib told True Gym MMA in a recent interview per the Sports Rush, only if you talk about the fact that we are both champions and both Muslims, but all the things he did outside the ring. With this, I cannot be compared indeed. At the time when he was champion, he was another race. And at the time in America, black people were treated badly, and according to his stories, he was not even served in restaurants. He threw away the gold medal, he changed the attitude towards his race very much, so we cannot be compared. To be able to compare me with him, I need to go back to those years and be black and be a champion. After that, we would see how I would behave in such a situation. In this case, we can be compared. I like that people compare us, but I think it is inappropriate. So there's his comparison with Muhammad Ali. To be honest with you, it's not right to compare boxers with... You can't really compare a boxer and a wrestler as it pertains to their own accomplishments in different sports. I think Max Kellerman talked about this, where I saw a really good interview here on YouTube, where Max Kellerman was talking about... Well, somebody asked him on what his opinion was on Ronda Rousey getting knocked out, which led to Max Kellerman. And this is Max Kellerman... This isn't ESPN on First Take Max Kellerman. This is Max Kellerman after doing like a 3.5-hour podcast talking about, journalism and the world of sports, after doing a live podcast in a convention area. So somebody were to ask Max Kellerman, hey, what do you think about Ronda Rousey? And he goes on to say that Ronda Rousey is a trailblazer. She's an all-time great. She's one of the best ever. She will go down as one of the greatest athletes in all time, but her greatness as an athlete doesn't make her objectively better than other athletes in her own field. So Max Kellerman goes on to say that, is Ronda Rousey an all-time great? Yes. Is she a trailblazer? Yes. Is she a cultural icon? Yes. Is she overrated? Yes. And the reason why she could simultaneously become both overrated but also be one of the greatest ever is because he compared it to Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant in the sense of, okay, Tiger Woods in his field of golf is greater than Kobe Bryant in his field in basketball. We can all agree to that. And that Tiger Woods has won more championships or awards. Okay, he's won the highest prize there is in the PGA Tour, more so than Kobe Bryant has run NBA championships. But because Tiger Woods is more accomplished in his sports than Kobe Bryant, you still can't say that Tiger Woods is a better athlete than Kobe Bryant. You can say Tiger Woods is greater than Kobe Bryant in his field. You can say Tiger Woods is comparable to Kobe Bryant in terms of greatness, if you were to just bring in sports in general. And so for the comparison for Khabib and Muhammad Ali, it is inappropriate. I would say Muhammad Ali is an all-time great in his field of boxing. Khabib is an all-time great in his field of mixed martial arts. In the general sense of... Khabib is great, but within his most popular field, which is mixed martial arts, in the biggest stage he's participated in the UFC, Muhammad Ali has accomplished more in the field of boxing than he has... Muhammad Ali has accomplished more at the highest level than Khabib has. And so it really isn't fair to make the comparison. Now, they're both great athletes. There's no disregarding that. I believe if Khabib's heart is in the right place, he could go and continue on being a great MMA fighter for the next, 10 years. He's that talented. He can be that great. Now, you can't force someone to continually have the motivation to go and keep on fighting. Because if Khabib doesn't have the motivation to continue fighting after fighting against Justin Gaethje and maybe fight against GSP, he doesn't have to fight. He really doesn't. And so, Khabib reminds me a lot of Tyron Woodley in the sense that you're both objectively great fighters. The only thing holding you guys back is circumstances that don't apply to the field of mixed martial arts. It's strange. So, this is a huge one. Here it is coming from ESPN. Daniel Cormier says he tested positive for COVID-19 as UFC title fight with Stipe Miocic neared. This is coming by Mark Ramondi. Daniel Cormier tested positive for COVID-19 less than 6 weeks before his UFC heavyweight title fight with Stipe Miocic. Cormier confirmed on ESPN on Tuesday. Cormier said one of his training partners tested positive for the coronavirus on July 1st, prompting the entire team to get tested. In that test, he was negative. But a week later, Cormier started to feel sick. He got tested again, July 8th, and the result that time was positive. If not for a smart ring he has been wearing, Cormier said he might not have gotten the second test, and he likely would have pushed through without dialing back his training despite not feeling well. Cormier said he doesn't know if he would have made the fight, which was August 15 in Las Vegas, had he not taken his training down a notch when he did. I'd have kept training, not knowing I was sick, running the risk of infecting everybody else, infecting the entire gym. Cormier said, you also don't know what your experience with the virus is going to be if you continue to run yourself down physically. Then it's just attacking my immune system. I took the data and those warning signs from the ring and I applied them. The Oura Ring, which connects to smartphones via Bluetooth, gives regular readings on sleep, health, and performance. The UFC announced Tuesday they had partnered with Oura Health and it will be sending rings to fighters who want one. Cormier said he saw some drastic changes in his numbers as he began to feel sick. His testing heart rate went from 50 to 70. His heart rate variability plummeted from 70 to 23. Yikes. And his body temperature almost rose by 2 degrees. So despite the negative COVID-19 test initially, he got tested again and slowed down the training. All those numbers that I was paying much attention to, so were telling me that something wasn't right. Cormier said, who ended up losing the bet to Miocic by unanimous decision, it didn't tell me I had COVID, but it told me something wasn't right. When Cormier found out he had COVID-19, he took the next day off from training. He had already begun training in his garage and quarantining away from his family, including his pregnant wife, in another part of his Gilroy, California home. But Cormier said one of his coaches who had COVID-19 previously was willing to hold pads for him, so he did that for 2 days. In the meantime, he reached out to physician friends, who directed him to a top San Francisco Bay Area infectious disease doctor. The doctor gave him medication, and in a few days, he started to feel better, and his other training partners started to feel better, and were willing to continue despite the risks. Cormier 41 said he got a call from the Santa Clara County official following the positive test, telling him he had to quarantine for 14 days. The former UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion said he followed the rules and kept his garage training camp like a bubble. Cormier said he spent more than $5,000 on coronavirus testing for himself, coaches, and training partners during his camp. I'm training in my garage. I'm staying at home. I'm still in the same environment with the people I've been with. I'm not doing anything outside what you guys are telling me. I'm not doing anything that I'm not supposed to be doing. On July 13, 5 days after the positive test, Cormier said he was basically back on track for training, though it was a latter week. Cormier said he was feeling better and got tested 3 more times between July 12 and July 22. They were all positive. His first negative after all positives was July 25th, 3 weeks before the Miocic fight. Cormier wants to make it clear that the brief training camp pause and illness did not affect him at all in the fight. It didn't kill my preparation. It really didn't. That's one of the things I want to evoke about Stipe Miocic won the fight. This is not an excuse. So you know what? Good thing for Daniel Cormier, man. Awesome. He was able to persevere, push through COVID-19, was still able to perform, make his time be what he wanted to be, kind of. But also a good thing for the UFC, man. It would have been horrible if he was tested positive for COVID-19. Good thing he was able to go catch it earlier. Good thing for the UFC in the Udo rings. So it was tougher for Daniel Cormier to be able to go train with COVID-19 by having him trying to quarantine himself, but he was able to catch it early. He was able to prevent a huge disaster from even happening in the first place. So good on Daniel Cormier for doing his best, following the guidelines, and doing what he can to persevere and continue training and going into the UFC events being COVID-free. Thank goodness, that's the most important part. And so far, there has not been an incident, whether it be Bellator or UFC, where a fighter came to the show being sick with COVID. Any fighter that came in sick with COVID, man, it was reported or they were in quarantine. And so far, every event has gone by smoothly with fighters canceling or bowing out if they were tested for COVID. So overall, things are going well. Here's the thing. Even the NBA Basketball Association, an organization that has a lot more variables, many more variables, and many more participants than your typical UFC, Bellator, or ONE FC show. And you know what? There are no cases. We got players and athletes bringing their own family members to the show. We've got agents, we've got health teams, we got cameramen, we have 12-man rotation lineups, we got coaches, assistant coaches. It sounds like something could go wrong, but nothing went wrong, and I'm happy about that. Which means, if the world of sports can get back to its normal pace and everything can go be kind of normal, then hopefully the world can be normal. California right now is slowly getting back on track on where it should be. Cormier got back on track with his training, and maybe there's a sign. Maybe there's a sign that yes, although COVID is still a thing, we have to be careful with ourselves, and if when we do become careful for ourselves, we can help others, and the whole experience just becomes a lot more better. That brings to a close for today's podcast. You have been a great audience for me. All I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts MMA podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.